Open any mapping app, and you are presented with a high-resolution satellite view of nearly every street corner and remote coastline on the planet. We use these tools to plan travel, evaluate real estate, and verify distance, relying on the sensor data as a proxy for physical presence. We have come to treat the imagery on our screens as an objective, real-time record of the world. But that sense of total visibility is a carefully managed representation. Because we are conditioned to expect total transparency, the specific places where that data stream is intentionally interrupted signal the most sensitive coordinates on Earth. Search for the coordinates 76 degrees 47 minutes north and 157 degrees 58 minutes east in the remote East Siberian Sea. You won't find land or ice. Instead, you'll find a heavy black smudge that appears to have been painted directly over the digital landscape. This is Jeannette Island. Physically, it is a 2-kilometer stretch of ice-covered rock featuring a peak that rises over 1,000 feet. Google has provided no official comment explaining why this specific landmass is obscured, even as researchers and hobbyists have documented its erasure across multiple versions of the platform. This unexplained void serves as an entry point for a wider investigation into how and why physical geography is scrubbed from the digital record. The history of Jeannette Island is tied to a failed 1879 expedition led by American Navy officer George E. DeLong, who was searching for open polar waters near the North Pole. By September of that year, their ship was trapped in pack ice, drifting hundreds of miles over the course of nearly 2 years. The crew finally landed on the island in May 1881, claiming the territory for the United States and naming it after their vessel. Decades later, a Russian hydrographic expedition led the Russian Empire to declare that Jeannette, along with other Arctic islands, was actually part of their territory. Today, the United States recognizes the island as Russian territory. However, modern observers point to the blackout as evidence that Russia has converted this disputed rock into a classified military outpost. The black box over Jeannette Island demonstrates how states can use digital erasure to finalize their control over contested land. This isn't an isolated Arctic anomaly. It is part of a global, state-mandated protocol for digital redaction. If you look at the Volkel Air Base in the Netherlands, you will find a pixelated blur covering a facility that is widely suspected of housing tactical nuclear weapons. In France, the Marcoule Nuclear Site is similarly obscured, with the censorship expanding following a fatal explosion at the complex in 2011. Similar redactions appear over military logistics headquarters in Taiwan and sensitive defense zones across Europe. These blind spots are not errors. They are intentional filters applied by technology companies to comply with national security laws. The mapping tools we use to navigate our world are actively working in tandem with governments to conceal strategic and nuclear infrastructure from public view. Digital erasure is also used to scrub the physical evidence of historical and environmental trauma. The Moruroa Atoll in French Polynesia is a prime example of a site where the map hides a legacy of destruction. Between 1966 and 1996, the French military conducted nearly 200 atmospheric and underground nuclear tests here, releasing massive amounts of radiation into the Pacific. Investigations by Greenpeace and other international groups documented contamination spreading thousands of miles, leading to decades of diplomatic tension and protests. President Jacques Chirac eventually ordered the end of the program, but the island remains a restricted zone that is still digitally blurred today. By blurring these coordinates, the state effectively removes the visual evidence of environmental damage from the public's primary view of the planet. From the Arctic to the Pacific, we see a consistent pattern of physical locations being manually scrubbed from the digital record. This process reveals that satellite data is processed and filtered by state interests before it ever reaches a consumer interface. National security filters sit between the raw orbital capture and the map on your phone, translating data into the blurred pixels and black boxes that define the limits of what we are allowed to see. In a medium that presents itself as a total record of the world, these blank spaces are the only parts of the map that reveal where true geopolitical power is being exercised. We have come to rely on these maps as if they were an objective mirror of reality, but they are more accurately viewed as legally compliant documents. Accepting the curated limits of these digital tools means accepting a world where entire islands and nuclear facilities can be made effectively invisible. The entities that possess the authority to redact the map hold the power to decide what is visible and what is effectively non-existent.